Hello everyone and happy Christmas! Yes, today is the 25th of December, which means it has been an entire year since I last did this sort of video. If you haven't seen the previous one, I did a video last year entitled The 12 Decks of Scrolls 2013. Already started the 2013 bit about a month ago when I realised I should probably do another one. So that's that. Go back and watch that. It contains the 12 decks of that current meta, which was beta, mid-beta, decay just kind of come out-ish. So be interested to look at the history there. I haven't, because I haven't really prepared for this. I've been a bit ill, so that's why I haven't seen much scrolling from me. But we're trying to make an effort for this, so get this done, because it is Christmas. So yeah, the idea of this video is we go over 12 decks, 12 decks of scrolls, 12 days of Christmas. See the relation. Yeah, we're going to go over 12 decks, and yeah, just go into detail them to show you the options that are there. Just make for an interesting little thing. There was obviously the game being released recently, which I suppose is kind of a big thing, and Waypoints was also released, and then there was also lots of changes and nerfs, which means the meta isn't entirely settled. So some of these decks are set. There are a few which are sort of funky, namely the last one, because I got crushed by it yesterday, so I've included it. Not all decks are, perfected, but they're almost there. The idea's there, but the aim of the video is for you to see the decks and go, ooh, I want to try that. So as long as that's achieved, I don't care. So with that, let's jump into it. Okay, so the first deck we're going to be viewing today is Late Game Order. Now, this used to be the most powerful deck in the game. That was way back in early beta. It had Mangonel Speed Focus, which was incredible because Focus could be used on structures back then, so you had a massive 6-power lobber effect, and it dominated, and Imperial Resources was known as Wimperial, and it was beautiful and overpowered, so we nerfed that. It's kind of a theme of nerfing in this game. But since Waypoints, it has seen a resurgence, and it's now sort of recognised as the best deck in the game, I guess. Quite a few people have got to number 1, it's doing quite well. I think it is, but I refuse to play it, because where's the fun in that? But yeah, Late Game Order. Basically, the idea is you use defensive scrolls, such as Wing Shield and Gallant Defender here, to stop you from taking damage. Then you ramp up with Imperial Resources, heal your idols, draw cards, be happy, and you get back in the game with big powerful combos like Arbiter Steer and Tempo Theft, or Mangonel and Speed. Now, as I said, Mangonel Speed was nerfed because of a focus change many months back, but thanks to Waypoints, they introduced a new scroll called Valorous, which has the resonance effect of adjacent units get +1 attack until end of turn, which means you can buff up your Mangonels, which means they can have like 17 attack. That's never going to happen, but they can have about 6, which is kind of all you need. So yeah, Late Game Order, it has seen a resurgence, and this is my build. It's based off a few other people's builds. I looked at Nerps and a guy called Nix who did quite well, and a couple of other guys, and I've sort of built and crafted my own. Righteous Partisan, another thing, draws you cards. Drawing cards is quite good in this deck. There's quite a few scrolls that do that. Summons, Kabonk, Pother, Righteous Partisan. K. Oh, K's a sexy thing. Cost 8 is a 6/7 reward, and at the end of a turn, if an opponent unit was destroyed in combat, draw 1 scroll, and look at that win percentage. But yeah, we only got the 1k because it's kind of a thing, bit of a trick, but once you get on the field, you win, basically. But yeah, Late Game Order, really, really strong right now. Not a lot of decks can compete with it. Mono Growth can do quite well if they're running Earthenmost, because they can get past the armour. Other than that, they can struggle. Energy would usually do quite well against Order, but now Order's a bit too beefed out. We've got too many strong units like Arbiter Steer, K, Red Ice, too many 4 health units, so Energy can struggle. Tempo Order will still beat it, and that's what I'm playing in Ranked right now, and it's good. But yeah, Late Game Order, probably the best deck in the game right now. Mess around it. There's so many things you can do with a deck as well. You can put in chance positions, other things. There's variations where you have Sinmark, Zealous, and Heritage, and Power Bound, and you blow them up, and I don't know, you just draw and ramp with that. There's also other cards like what's it called? I'm good at names today, as I said. Not quite with it. Infiltrate. There you go. That's also another popular score. You might want to try that instead of maybe Pother. Kind of slows the opponent down. Target units countdown decreased by 2 and draw 1 scroll. Not bad. I prefer Pother, but personal choice. The idea is mess around with decks. There are quite a lot of scrolls which you can just interchange up to your personal choice. As far as late game order, we're going to hop over to another late game deck, late game growth. Okay, so late game growth has been basically one of the strongest decks forever. It is definitely the oldest deck in the game because during alpha, this is all anyone played, late game growth. And it's seen so many changes throughout the years now that pretty much unrecognisable. But you can see some similar scrolls. Still got God Hand, Quake, Great Wolf is in there, Sister of the Fox, Frostgale. But there's also new scrolls now, Vengeful Vator, excellent scroll, it ramps up your resources. Terrain Brute, big beefy 3 cost. Remember, Growth used to have 0 3 cost units, and now they have tons, and they're pretty strong. Terrain Brute's really, really good. Rat King, get lots of rats out. My deck here is built differently to most other people's. They will have... Basically, it's got a solid strategy of wanting to ramp up with Sister of the Fox, Vengeful Vator. Then you and drawing cards with First Sword as well. Rat King, delay the game, protect your idols. And then you unleash Quakes and Frostgales. You've got more resources, more cards in your hand. Then you can play Kinfolk Veterans and Ragged Wolves. Destroy your opponent's stuff. And then you play the big things. God Hand, Rallying, and you win. That's the strategy with this deck. Yeah, basically, ramp up, draw, blow up the field, and attack in one ginormous rush, which your opponent won't be able to stop. The deck is, I'd say, used to be quite weak against Decay, but it's actually quite strong now. Nog Nest is a big thing. It really helped that Decay matchup. With it being a structure, Decay can't deal with it. And it's insanely strong in this sort of deck because you get 2 free Nogs out of it if it survives, so that's 3 health per Nog. So it's sort of like a 4, 5, 9-ish. 4 attack, 5 countdown, 9 health-ish. Which you'd pay 2 for. So Nog Nest, really, really good value. You still got the Wolf sort of synergy, which I still like to stick with. Mangy Wolf, Great Wolves, Ragged Wolves, and Brother Wolf. I've seen some decks not run them. I don't really agree with that. I think you should stick with Wolves because they're still quite strong. And Gusty is another new addition to the deck. Waypoint Scroll. I think there's only 2 in this. No, 3 aren't there? 3 Waypoint Scrolls. But Gusty, it may look weak. 5/2/5 for 6 for flying, but 5 attack and 5 health is pretty good. This used to be Sister Vial, but Sister Vial was nerfed, so it's not as good as it used to be. But flying is really, really relevant to this deck. It should not be underestimated. You can just move it anywhere you like. Play Rally and God Hand, and your opponent can't do anything about it. So that is a pretty strong combination, and also it's a giant eagle, which is quite grooving. So Monogrowth, as I said, playstyle for this particular version, which I designed, is to ramp, draw cards, blow up things, and then just overrun your opponent with strong minions. Yeah. So, late game growth. Now we're going to look at Mono Energy Ranged. Right, so Mono Energy Ranged, also one of the strongest decks ever built. It has been ruling the meta since basically this card was introduced, Bombard. It may have been nerfed quite recently. I think the deck is still seriously strong. Not a lot of people playing it, which surprises me, but in tournaments it's always done well. I'm sure if people hop back into this sort of deck, then it's going to rule the meta again. There was a change where Gravelock Elder, it's now no longer give Gravelock's attack, it's only giving health, so I've replaced that with Ironclad Reaver from a previous version, and Ironclad Reaver does a good job against growth, just doesn't take damage, which is kind of how you want to play it. Lack of waypoint scrolls in this deck, aren't there? But it's a good deck. You ramp up with Echimaton, you got ramp with Power Trip, so you can play out Fear really quickly and early, and it's... what's going on there? Is that its reflection? Why has Thea got a reflection? That's weird. Is that going to happen? Oh, alright. I didn't know about that. Is that really a thing? It's a thing. Okay, but Thea, really, really strong. 7/2/6, range attack, piercing, gains your resources. This is something you can afford to play early, especially against growth. If you power chip into Thea, then it does reward you because of its pillage effect, giving you resources. So the card advantage you lose from power tripping into it is regained by you gaining resources from fear and every other turn. Sorry. So that's really good. Other than that, deck ramps with Sun Eruption. Forge kind of gives you card advantage. You've got things, if you've got no cards to play, you can just pump your resources into Forge and gain gun automatons. Seriously good Skull Forge. Look out for that. So if you fancy sort of being tricksy and... I mean, yeah, fancy being tricksy, thinking the opponent's... making the opponent think he's winning, and then you just come back with a massive Dust Runner, Storm and a Machinated Bombard play. You like this deck. It can do quite a lot of things. It's just not... It doesn't really have any bad matchups. That's the good thing about this deck. It's strong against aggro, late game decks, control decks it's really good against, tempo-based decks. It just doesn't have any bad matchups. Does it have any good matchups? Yeah, that's quite a few as well. Notably, I would say Growth. Growth does seem to struggle sometimes now. I don't know why. It just does. Decay also. Decay really hates this deck. Decay hates a lot of things, to be honest, but this deck in particular, really, really good. You haven't seen too many versions of Solemn Giants, but I like ramping up. So I've got Echobatons and Solemn Giants. You can replace that with Tempest Reaver, replace with Sun Eruption and Solemn Giants with something else as well. But I like the sort of more late gamey version, especially with Fear, because that's so strong. So yeah, that's my mono energy ranged deck. So we're going to move on now to Mono Decay. Okay, so to avoid me going into a huge rant into how much Decay has suffered over the past few months, basically, Decay used to be the best deck in the game, and over the last year, it's been nerfed to hell. It used to be the best deck as well, before Bloodline Taint was nerfed, and now it's just really, really struggling. Apart from Undead. Undead's okay, it's a bit of variance, but variance-based, but what's the word? Unreliable. We'll go with that. But this is as close to a working late game-ish Decay deck I can get. Bit controlly with Halls of Lasser and Cursed Presence and Poison, Infectious Blight, Blight Bear and Brain Lice. But you still have a Watch Again combo. Really, really strong that. And you still got the sort of basic creature base in Ripper, Tribesman, Darkling, Cursemonger, Lifestealer, Oblivion Seeker, Witch Doctor. We're just trying to fit in a few more things here to offer you that more control, because you will need it, because you can no longer just look to just survive with strong, powerful creatures, because they no longer hold as much weight. Lifestealer can no longer fully heal. Blightbearer now costs 4. Hunter's health was down to 4. Witch Doctor's attack's now down to 4. Tribesman, well, that was fine. His attack used to be 3, but now it's 2. But basically, you need to be a bit more controlling now with Decay instead of just thinking your creatures are going to survive, because they're not anymore. It's just not going to happen. The meta has changed as well, so things are being much, much more powerful. Growth, which would have been an easy win for Decay, it's now got big enchantments like Overmirth, so you will struggle to survive. However, this version is good. It's not as strong as it used to be, not as strong as it needs to be, but it's decent. And if you still fancy playing Decay, look to this sort of build, because it's as close as you're going to get to to working, I think. But look to the future, because I am asking for changes every single day. So look out. Fun things might be ahead. But yeah, those 4 decks are the sort of late game-ish builds for each version. Now we're going to look at more sort of aggro-ish decks. For some reason, move my hands in a sort of Hawaiian move. I don't know why I'm doing that. Not that you can see it, so I didn't even have to tell you that. So yeah, we're going to look at more sort of aggressive decks for each faction. Now starting with Tempo Order. So, as I said earlier, this is the deck that I'm currently playing in Ranked. I haven't played much Ranked because of illness. But you're doing well, unbeaten. So that, actually no, I lost 1 game to the deck I'm going to show you last, and it was horrible. But yeah, it's doing well. Still a solid deck. Not as good as it used to be, because there have been some nerfs to Eternal Sword. Wings Captain's kind of been hers as well. Wings Warder. Suitable nerfs, I think. But yeah, I've settled on this build, and it's working great. If you don't know what Tempo Order is, basically it's Order's aggro deck. But it's not fully built on aggro. It can last up to about 20 turns, I would say now, before you start to lose. Whereas aggro decks you can just lose straight away. Because this deck does offer you a bit more defense with Wing Shields and Wings Warders, you can look to control the board a bit. You don't have to rush your opponent's idols as much as your standard aggro deck. But basically you want to play it as, you just want to curve out with strong creatures, Aiding Knight, Ducal Infantryman, Raw Skirmisher, Wings Captain, pretty good starts. If you're playing against Energy, try and get Wings Warders down. Against Decay as well, look to get Wings Warders. Basically anything except Growth, look for Wings Warders. They are great, that's why we've got 3. I was playing 2, and I changed my mind, so we're running 3 because still really good. Really helps protect your creatures against your opponent's removal. Just protects all your huge stuff. Relevus is a huge creature in this deck. Insanely powerful. And you're thinking, why the heck aren't you running 3? Well, the answer is, too many times did I have one on the field and I sacked the scrolls and I drew a Relevus and I had a dead turn. And I don't want dead turns with this deck because if you have a dead turn, you lose. And that is how I don't want things to go. So we've only got 2 Relevus. You do have other strong 4-drops in Ducal Skirmisher, Wings Captain. But I think 2 Relevus is fine. Eternal Sword, we've got 2 as well. Really powerful enchantment. Buffs up your creatures and stays on the field. Your opponent can't do anything about it. Usual Wings Cleavers as well. Late game finisher. Ignore those stats. It's not a 4-3-5 or 6. It is a 7-2-5 with Relentless. And that's pretty good. He's got a reflection as well. And him. What is this? Why haven't I noticed this before? Is this only tier 3 things? Do tier 3 scrolls have reflections? That's quite cool. My mind has been opened. I've got like 700 scroll tier 3 collection. I've never noticed that. That's quite cool. Anyway, I'm getting distracted because I'm trying to remain calm. Wing Cleavers, excellent against order and growth. Energy, not so much. You're probably just looking just to kind of not use them if you can. And decay as well. But Wing Cleavers can offer you that final late game push if you feel you need it. I only got 2 because they do cost 6 and usually want to stay around 5. Decimation as well. Not a commonly played scroll in normal order decks, but this is a tempo order deck and you may find yourself struggling sometimes to take out opponent's idols, and Decimation will let you get that final push and destroy an idol with direct damage. Against late game order, be careful with them because they will play Imperial Resources and heal their idols, so watch out there. Other than that, strong creatures, strong spells, attack your opponent's idols, you can do a hell of a lot of damage in no time at all. It is a seriously, seriously strong deck. Yeah. Now to look at another strong deck. All these decks are so strong, it's really annoying. Aggro Growth. Now, this is for 12 decks of scrolls, but I've lied. It's more like the 12 types of decks because I said to my friends, let me see your Aggro Growth deck lists, and I had about 17 different ones. And they're all based around 3 themes. So we're going to show you 3 different aggro growth decks now, and I'll go through the pros and cons of each one. Okay, so this is my monogrowth aggro build. If I was going to play monogrowth aggro, this is the version I would play. I prefer beefier creatures, so we've got guaranteed attack and health and aggression, whereas other versions can be a little bit less strong. But we'll get into that. But this is more beefy. It can, it's not as fast as the other decks. Less enchantments as well. It's just based on strong creatures, just being able to overrun your opponents. So we've got things like Strike Fang there, Brother of the Wolf, strong attack and strong health. Ancestral Totem to buff up your units. Nog and Kinfolk Ranger, only 2/2/3s, but they cost 2, so they don't die to removal as much. Breaker, not commonly played, but it's got 3 attack and 3 health guaranteed, and it can get huge. Earthborn Mystic, only got 5 enchantments. So what? You always play Earthborn Mystic in an aggro deck. And we've got Great Wolf as well. So we've got 5 Relentless units, which is really, really strong. Kinfolk Veterans as well, obviously, really, really good. Basically, this is a beefier, meatier version of monogrowth aggro, and this is the version I like to play. It does tend to struggle in some instances, especially against tempo order or just order, because they do have that armor, and this doesn't have that extra reach. We have Rumble against Decay and Order, it's really good. But it doesn't offer you that extra attack, which some decks do like. So speed can be an issue, but we make up for it in big, big units. So that's the advantage of this deck. Now, if we look at another one, namely this one, this has been labelled by my guildmates as 1 countdown growth, which I don't like the name, but I guess you really can't call it anything. This is my version. it's got basically, it's basically looking at more of a one countdown, be aggressive idea. So we've got Earthborn Keeper and Wildling, both 3 cost, both have 0 attack, which is annoying. Which is why I don't really like it as much, because you don't have the guaranteed attack damage. But it does have 1 countdown, so you can attack and threaten a lot of damage each turn, as long as you have that extra, the ability to give that extra attack in your hand. So with Earthenmurfs, so this is a new enchantment. Cost 4, gives enchanted unit +4 attack, which is a lot. Especially on relentless creatures, which is why I've got 8 in this deck. Gravehawk, Stripefang Bear, and Great Wolf. Gravehawk, you may only have 1 attack, but if you stick an Earthenmurf on it, it's a 5/2/4 relentless creature, and that's pretty darn strong, especially early on. We've also got Fields of Vigor, which is an interesting one. I've talked to a few people about that, and they like it. It's a replacement of Ancestral Totem in this sort of deck, because you do have quite a few cheap units. It'll work on Rat King as well. Because you don't have as many late game units as my previous decks, so Fields of Vigor will offer you cheaper buffs to most of your units, which is pretty good. So yeah, not as much early game though, because we've only got 6 2-cost units instead of a 9 in my other deck. But we do have more 3-drops. Field of Avertance also great, because we do have so many enchantments. Vilda can get huge, only 2 again, because you want the guaranteed draws. We don't want to just draw Vilda and have it dead in our hand. Wildling, Rat King, and Earthborn Keeper are key here. You can use Rat King to buff up Wildling and Earthborn Keeper. You can stick an Earthenmurf on basically any unit in this deck, and it's going to become a huge threat. So this deck is basically built around using enchantments and getting in as much damage as possible. If it is stopped though in its tracks, it can suffer. It does kind of like just go with it, and it can have some insane starts. But if it doesn't get that and it does falter, then it can struggle. But more aggressive, much more aggressive than the previous version. Now we're going to look at the next one, which is somewhat of a new one to me. It's Beast Growth. Okay, so Monogrowth Beast is still in the sort of aggro growth frame, if you like, but it's in sort of themed around beasts, which have some powerful scrolls. Cunning Flock, Essence Feast. Cunning Flock, sacrifice target beast of a beast you control, have their attack increased by that unit's attack until end of turn, and become fully healed. So, not only can you sack a Terrain Brute and give all your beasts +4 attack, you can also heal all of them, which is unfair. Terrain Brute, so in previous versions, the 1 countdown version had Earthborn Keeper and Wildling. Here we have Terrain Brute and Mangy Wolf. Mangy Wolf now a 3-drop, was before a 4-drop. Works with Great Wolf, so we've got the big beast here. A really, really strong creature. How's it doing? I trade my scrolls too often. Yeah. But yeah, Rat King again to work with Terrain Brute and their beasts. Nog Nest isn't really suited to aggro decks as such because it's slow, but it gives you beasts, and we want beasts in this deck. This is why I'm not as keen on these versions, because we've got Rat King. I don't really like Rat King in aggro decks, but they do work. So if you prefer beasts, you can do insane combos with Cunning Flock, Essence Feast, Terrain Brute, really, really strong scroll. So it all kind of works together nicely. It's just not the version I prefer playing. But if you like beasts and you like doing insane tricks, I mean, Brother of a Wolf gives you Ragged Wolves, you can buff them up. I mean, you can play Cunning Flock, give everything plus tons damage, Essence Feast. Oh, it's just unfair sometimes. It's never deck lasts a snowball, and if it doesn't, it can struggle. But not as much as the previous version. But yeah, actually it's not too bad, I lie. It's actually pretty good at surviving. Yeah, beasts, there is a theme, and it exists, and it is this. So, they're the 3 aggro decks, just pure aggro, beefy growth, I guess if you want to call it that. 1 countdown growth, and beasts. So that's growth. Now we're going to look at Gravelocks. So, in the previous meta, Gravelocks was pretty much considered to be the best deck, and that's because Gravelock Elder gave attack as well. And now that's no longer a thing, so that's upsetting. And since then, Gravelocks hasn't really been played. But I bring you a version of Gravelocks which is still pretty solid, I think. To make up for the Elder nerf, I've included Gravelock Burrows, which is kind of groovy. When a Gravelock you control is dealt damage, your other Gravelocks get +1 attack until the end of your turn. So you do have a few removal spells which you can use on yourself to buff up your own Gravelocks. Play Thunder Surge on your own units. and buff them all up. That is a legitimate play, and they will be buffed up quite a lot. You're still able to snowball with quite strong Gravelocks. Raider, Guard, Outcast, Locking Brute, still pretty strong. You just don't get the buff now from Gravelock Elder, which has slowed the deck down. But the core of the deck's still there. Gravelock Freak is still insane, 3-2-6, and it can get to a 3-2-9 with Gravelock Elder on the field. But yeah, also Uhu can give you a lot of resources. Why we've got Sudden Eruption in here, Power Trip. You can gain a lot of resources here and just have a massive turn of this deck. You can also snipe idols with Copper Automaton, Iron Whip, and Machinated, which is fun because the opponent never sees it coming. So that's Gravelocks. Now, this was the sort of most popular version of Gravelocks previously, and although I liked it, I like to play a different one, and that's one we're going to show you now, and it is called Structure Locks. Okay, so Structure Locks was a deck that me and Sisp sort of worked on for about a week or so. He had the core build, I came along and improved it, and then we played the hell out of it, and did quite well. It's a combination of Gravelocks and Mono Energy structures. So we've got powerful structures, Charge Call, Automated Forge, State Machine, Useless Contraption, has a job. Obviously, 4-cost Wall, might not be as good, but hasn't done too bad. But the idea is you get your structures out, you can draw scrolls with Stargirl Omelets, so this is the draw engine of a deck. You still get access to your removal, Machine Chance, Thunder Surge, Sudden Eruption. You can do so many big things with Uhu as well. So it's this really, really solid, strong deck. It doesn't have any bad matchups apart from growth. We've got Potion Resistance to try and counter that. We've got one Gravelock Boas in the deck as well, just to give you a bit of extra attack if you feel you need it. But the core of the deck is you play your structures, you can control the board, you stop taking damage, and then you win with Solemn Giant and your little Gravelocks. So it pings a lot, Gravelock Guard, Charge Call, State Machine as well. So you bring your opponent's health down, and that's pretty good, because you've got things like Sudden Eruption, Thunder Surge, do a lot of damage, and you control the board, and you're happy. So that is Structure Locks. This is a version of Gravelocks I prefer to play. Just a lot more control oriented, and your opponent can rage quite a bit, because there's not a lot they can do about it once they start losing. So that's Gravelocks covered, and now we're going to look at Decay, a new version of Decay called Undead. Okay, so Undead Decay is one of the new decks thanks to Waypoints. Waypoints introduced lots of undead themed scrolls, which really allowed this strategy to be well, legitimate. Before we had the bits and pieces, we had Restless Bones and a few undead units, but now we have a lot of options, and it's pretty good. Pretty good. Problem is, it's not as consistent as it needs to be a top tier deck, but if you go on a roll with it, your opponent can't do anything about it. I prefer to play a bit more control-y version than how Undead can be played. Undead can be played as a pure aggro deck, but mine's a bit more control-y. I like things like Languid and Brain Lice and Soul Steel and things to be in your deck. Soul Scrounger as well, pretty good. Curse Presence, more control-y theme there. Soul Scrounger used to cost 3, now it costs 2, and you can it allows you to put a lot of pressure on your opponent's units, especially when you're going to have quite a few Revenants on the field, because they'll be blowing up, and means units can attack every turn, which is pretty good. Stick on a Harvester, you make it attack every turn. And then the Conduit, really strong scroll now. It's got 4 health, it used to have 3, but whenever a non-Revenant creature you control is destroyed, you get a Revenant, and Revenant is kind of like the little gem of a deck. It costs 1, it's a 2/1/1, it's got Ward, don't know why. But it's destroyed after attacking, who cares? Well, actually, you do, because it helps your deck. Rot Eaters and Harvesters are affected by Revenant going off, or dying rather, so you can do a lot of things here. But mainly you want to save your Revenants to play with Restless Bones in one turn, so you can just have a massive swipe of attack. That's all right. I've also included Hex Marks just to give yourself a bit of extra reach, offer that little extra rush, which you might feel you want. But the main reason you want to play this deck is because of Urva. Urva, one of the new champions. I saved you about 3 months ago now, wasn't it? 2 months? Somewhere close to that. Cost 5 is a 2/2/4, but when an undead unit you control deals damage, Urva makes it a ranged attack dealing 2 physical damage. Just 2 damage. Just 2 damage. But you can stick Hex Marks on Urva, and whenever she does that ranged attack, she can effectively do 5 damage to an idol. So that's why I've got Hex Marks in there, because you can snipe idols, and it's fun. But yeah, Urva, really strong creature, especially with so many undead units like we have in the deck. Can just do so much damage in one turn. Also, we've got Flesh Animator, which is quite cool. It's a 3/2/4 for 4, but it counts down all of your undead units and your opponents, so watch out for that. But all of your undead units do count down thanks to Flesh Animator, which is unfair. So, use them wisely, because Flesh Animator can just make everything attack. Harvesters will attack so often with this deck. Slayer Vestige, another new unit. It's got Slayer, kills anything he wants. So yeah, Undead. One of the most popular decks in the game. It's not as consistent as I would like it to be right now, but it's a pretty fun deck. So if you like this sort of strategy of just being unpredictable, I guess, this is a good deck for you. If you don't, play something else while you're watching this. But yeah, Undead, pretty cool stuff. Now we're going to look at an energy deck, which is a bit controversial because if you like it, you're deemed a bit of a prat, to be honest. You're hated. Yeah, it's the deck everyone loves to hate. It's Mono Energy Structures. Okay, so Mono Energy Structures is the slowest deck in the game right now, probably. Slowest standard deck, anyway. Basically, you win in about 30 turns just by putting up big walls, making your opponent be able to do absolutely nothing. You have insane number of resources. Anything your opponent plays, you blow up. And then you win with Solemn Giants. It's a simple strategy. It's a really effective one. And, yeah. if your opponent's playing Decay, they just lose. This used to be the natural counter to Decay. And still is, though it's not getting played. But, Mono Energy Structures, still a really, really strong deck, I feel. We've got Overdrive now. It only deals 1 damage. Decreases countdown by 2. So you play this on... there's basically 3 targets you want to do for Overdrive. They're Oculus Cannon, Ether Pump, and Clock Library. So you can play it on a Clock Library, you draw your card sooner. Oculus Cannon, you do a surprise 4 piercing damage. And Ether Pump, you do 1 damage to your opponent's side every single turn, and that is seriously strong. Thanks go to Nerd, by the way, for this deck, because I didn't have a build that I really liked, so he lent me this one to show you guys, and yeah, it's a really, really solid deck. Also, we've got Metal Wonder, because you can struggle against control decks. Sometimes that run Quake and Frostgale, things like that. So Metal Wonder just sort of prevents that sort of drawing card strategy, like Go Draw. It used to just play a Metal Wonder, Go Draw stood no chance. If you don't know what Go Draw was, it was a deck way back in beta, which I made, alpha rather actually, sorry, which had Growth and Order in it. You just drew lots of cards, you ramped really fast, and you just played Quake, Frostgale, all sorts, blew up your opponent's field. They couldn't do anything about it when you just blew them up and blew up your opponent's idols. It was insane. I wish that deck still existed. But some people didn't like it, so a lot of nerfs happened to it. But anyway, Metal Wonder, a really good counter to that sort of strategy. But yeah, its only real weakness is Echo Growth, but it can do fine against that now. You've got Overdrive in the deck. That really helps with Oculus Cannon and Ether Pump. I'd say maybe its weakest now is to Late Game Order, which is quite popular, so I'd be careful of that. But against anything else, if you know what you're doing with this deck, your opponent's going to find it hard to beat you, because if you get this right, yeah, it's not a lot they can do. So that's Mono Energy Structures. Now we're going to move on to multicolour decks. Now I've got 3. One is debatable if you could call it a multicolour deck. Actually, 2 of them are. Yeah, to come to think of it, there's not many multicolored decks, but I've tried. So the first one we're going to look at is Miracle Pudding. Okay, so Miracle Pudding was a really, really controversial deck when it was first created on the test server during the Waypoints development process, if you like. Basically, it's a combo deck, thanks to, with cards like Budding Retreats and Budding Vater. You use these to give you resources by playing beasts, and you can do a lot of crazy things. The old version allowed you to play Budding Retreats separately instead of them stacking, which really made this deck insane. But now, since that, it hasn't done too well until a guy called Musfika. Musfika, I guess that's what I'm pronouncing it. This is his deck, by the way, thanks to him. He posted the list on Reddit, and he showed that he got to the top 10 with it. So it's obviously doing something right. So if you like comboing, I'll just go into the idea a bit deeper, I guess. Use Budding Retreat and Budding Veta to gain your resources. So when you play a beast, you gain growth. When you play a creature, you gain wild. So you use these cards to gain resources, so you can just kind of keep playing things, gaining resources. Skythorn as well, use this as your draw engine. By playing creatures, you can draw cards off Skythorn, you keep drawing your stuff, you keep playing Fertile Soil, Ancestral Pact, to keep drawing cards until you can go off. Basically the idea is you have Budding Retreat and Budding Veta on the field. You then play Rat King or 2, and no AD, a few other things, until you gain 7 wild. Then you play Necrogeddon, that gives you a whole field of husks. And wild, you'll probably have about 8 or 9 wild thanks to Budding Retreat for the husk summoning. And then you can play things like God Hand, Mangy Wolf, what about Crimson Bull, other Ancestral Pact, and with die you draw cards. And once that's happened, you can't lose, because you can draw so many cards, you can do so much damage in one turn, and you can pull off a combo by like turn 5 or 6. It is insane. It's the only real combo deck in Scrolls right now, or has ever been. So if you like that, play this deck. It's quite fun, and it will make your opponent rage a lot, because it makes me rage. So if you like comboing, play this deck. It really is quite fun. Yeah, Miracle Pudding, everyone. Now we're going to look at another Growth and Decay deck. It's probably the least popular deck in the game ever. Is that controversial? Maybe ever, but of recent times, it's it's had a reputation of being not good for Scrolls, and it is GD Samata Control. Okay, so Samata Control was a deck created during the Waypoints development process by my friend Sisp, and it led to quite a few changes. It used to be insane because you could use Curse and spell damage to just blow up your opponent's field, and it was so unfair. But now it's not as strong, but it's as close as we're going to get to a full-on multi-resource deck, and it still has its moments, and it's still a pain to play against. Because it can just blow up your field time and time again. Will offer you lots of draw and ramp thanks to a road. You get ramp from a road and return to nature. You blow up things with Quake, Damning Curse, Frostgale. You can control the board with Rat King, Soul Steals, Nognest, Languid. Draw cards, Eye of Eagle, Brain Lice, Oblivion Seeker, Fertile Soul. Horse of Lasser, a really good controlling card. You can just actually draw whatever you want pretty much. Necrogeddon, God Hand as finishers. But the main card is Samata Shift. It allows you to summon a random creature score from your library on target tile. Its health is set to 2. You don't care about that, because you've only got 2 creatures in this deck, and both of them are pretty darn good. Kinfolk Veteran, 5 cost 3/2/3, so it hastes in. For 3 growth, 3 haste, pretty strong. What's Kinfolk Veteran's stats? Pathetic. Yeah, go away, stats. Kinfolk Veteran, still one of the strongest creatures of the game. And the other one we have is Oblivion Seeker, which will be a 2/2, I guess. But as you just draw 2 scores, so you keep on drawing cards, you keep on ramping, you blow up the field, you keep on drawing, you keep on ramping, then you can play lots of stuff, you can God Hand, you can Necrogeddon. Basically, it's a pure control deck. Allows you to ramp, draw, blow things up. I've stated it so many times now, I'm getting annoying. So, if you like this sort of deck, then go for it. I won't hate you for it, but other people will. It's also quite expensive. Quite a few rares in this deck. But yeah, credit for this version goes to PewQ. This version he played in the Scrolls Guide Open tournament. Yeah, he regrets it also. He hates himself. But yeah, Samata Control. Still a pretty strong deck in my opinion. So play it if you want. Now, the last deck we're going to look at is, well, I saw it for the first time yesterday. My new guildmate, __ J4, I think is how we're going to go with his name. He crushed me with it, and I don't know what happened. So I'm just going to show you it now. It's called DE Zap, or Jolt. I call it Jolt, he calls it Zap. So yeah, it looks like this. It's a Decay and Energy deck, and it uses Feedback Jolt. And it's actually pretty good. I mean, I wasn't expecting any of this. Just suddenly your whole board just blows up, and you think, crikey, I wasn't expecting that. So, it is untested, but he's got quite high rankings with it, and yeah, expect a deck like this to become popular, because I quite like it. The idea is you play your enchantments. It's got quite a few enchantments in this deck. We've got Numa's Needle, Energy Siphon, Languid, Searing Shackles, Brain Lice. What's that, 15? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 15 scrolls in this deck are enchantments. So you play lots of enchantments on your opponent's field, rather. Energy Siphon then gives you 3 energy for that turn. And then you're able to play Feedback Jolt and deal 3 damage to all your opponent's creatures that are enchanted. And that's usually good enough to wipe a board or destroy enough units to make a Harvester attack and basically win. As I said, this is his deck. I haven't refined it at all or played it. I just saw it yesterday. I lost to it. And I thought I have to show you this deck because it's really quite unique and fun. It's also quite aggressive. We've got Mire Shambler as for 1-drop, which is interesting. I'll probably go with Ripper. But Mire Shambler, he's got that. Tribesman, Darkling, Harvester, Rot Eater, usual stuff. Also Stitcher. Stitcher's an interesting one. You can stitch your own units to buff them up. Yeah, get Harvester attacking. Really good deck for Harvester. Searing Shackles, pretty good against structures as well. Numa's Needle, so he can be quite controlly. Searing Shackles and Numa's Needle do a few things there. But the main idea is Energy Siphon into Feedback Jolt, blow things up. And I think unexpected things like that are great for Scrolls. So if you're looking for a new deck to play and refine, look at this because it's quite a fun one. So yeah, with that, we have gone over the 12 decks of Scrolls, or 15 of them, rather. But we'll say 12. Apologies that it may seem a little rushed. That's because it is. And that's probably because I've pretty much been in bed for the past week and not been able to have as much time as I wanted to put into this. But the decks are still there. I put them all on Scrollger for you, so they're all in the description. But yeah, there they are. Have fun with them. I'd love to hear some feedback on the decks. Tell me what you think, what you're playing as well. See if we can get a discussion going, because Scrolls is now released, and we need to try our best to make it go as far as it deserves to go right now. So with that, I'll wish you a Merry Christmas once again, and I'll see you after the New Year. Goodbye.